I've opened up Photoshop and I'm going to go to File, New, Blank File, and under this Presets there's Default Photoshop Element Size, but under here there's also Scrapbooking, and in Scrapbooking there's choices for 12 by 12, 8 by 8, and 6 by 6 pages. Here I've picked the 12 by 12, 12 inches high, 12 inches wide, resolution 300, color mode RGB color. And the background contents will be, I pick transparent. You can pick white or your background color, whichever you'd like. Clicking OK. And it's making my page for me. So now I have my blank screen and I want to make a template. So one thing that I do when I make a template is I'll go to my shapes, and I have right now the heart shape. If you're on a Mac, you go Option, and you'll get your selections coming up. And I'm going to go to my rectangle tool. And I'm going to, up here, I can tell it to be unconstrained, which means I can make it any size that I want, square, a fixed size, or a proportional size. So if I want 4 by 6, I can make it, it'll be that aspect ratio, 6 inches wide, 4 inches tall, but I can make it any size in that ratio. So I'll go with a fixed size of 5 by 4, and now when I click over on my page, I'll get a 5 inches wide by 4 inch tall rectangle, and then I simplify. That makes it, instead of a vector shape, a regular shape. And then what I do is I do Command and then the apostrophe key to get my grid. You can also get your grid by going View, Grid, and you see here they're telling you the quick key, the Command and apostrophe, and now I have my grid and I can zoom in. I can drag this to be on the grid lines by first selecting Snap to Grid. To zoom back out, I go Command 0 and it'll zoom to fit the screen. I'll undo my grid for the moment. To duplicate this shape, if I want to have more than one, I can go Command J and it will make another layer. You can see now in my layers palette I have a copy of that shape, and I can hold down the Shift key and drag the top shape down and it'll stay in line with the other shape. If I want to do that again, I could go Command J again, and I could hold down the Shift key and move down this shape. Now if I want to make sure they're evenly spaced, I can use my distribute tools, or I can turn my grid on again by going Command apostrophe, and I can make sure that everything is spaced evenly. Okay, so now those are spaced evenly, and I can tell that because of my grids. And I can Command 0 to zoom out entirely, which I have already. And you can see that they're too big for this page. So I can select Command and apostrophe is a quick key for turning on the grids. Now I can select all of my layers, and I can shrink them down by dragging on the corners, make them all fit on my screen, and press enter, double click somewhere within the selection, or hit the green check mark key. So now I have 3 rectangles evenly sized. Now, what if I want a circle? I can certainly do that. I go back over to my shape, and I can click on it and choose my ellipse tool. Again, up here I have some choices. I can say unconstrained, which means I can make it any shape that I want to. I can make a circle that'll be fixed size. I can tell it to be absolutely, I want a 6" by 6" circle, or it can be proportional, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because if it's a circle, it's obviously proportional. And I can tell it to do it from the center, or the default is to do it from the corner. Let's draw one from the corner. I have made a 6" by 6" circle. And I can line it up with the squares by knowing I have my grids open. I can turn off my grids with the same quick key. And here's another little tool that I use for making grids for templates. I can use a guideline. A guideline is a lot like a grid, except that I can control exactly where I want the guideline. And so I can go over to my ruler and hold it down. I can bring out this guideline, this blue guideline, and if I can move it, I haven't figured that out yet, but I can bring out another one. I can bring one out, and then I can snap. I can select through the view to snap to the grids or the guides. To do the quick key for the guides is Command and the semicolon key. And I can even make a new guide through this way too. And if I want it at a specific point, I can say I want a vertical guide and I want it to be at 6 inches. Or if I want a horizontal guide, wherever I want, 6 inches, 3 inches, wherever you want it. But if you have a specific place you want things to line up, you can do that. Now this circle has not been simplified. And so you see it doesn't have a transparent background. It's still what they call a vector shape. We've been having a little bit of discussion, or I have, with one of our users about why you'd simplify. For me, it makes the file smaller to simplify. Also, if I wanted to merge a photograph to the shape, it makes my file much smaller. So if I didn't do it when I was creating the shape, I can now right-click and select Simplify Layer, and now it's a regular shape with a transparent background. Does anybody have any questions on what you've seen so far? Questions? Of course, you can make any shape you'd like using these tools. If I wanted to make a hexagon, and they're very popular right now, I can go to the polygon tool, and then you can tell it how many sides that you want to have. So you can have a 12-sided or dodecadon, or a 10-sided, a decagon, or nonagon, octagon, whichever you like, because you can pick however many sides you want. So if you want to make a stop sign, you'd pick the polygon tool and tell it to be 8. Now, suppose I wanted to make these frames Suppose I wanted to have a shape with a frame. I'll take my shape and I'd select the Command key and click on the thumbnail. That should put marching ants around that shape. And you can see now I have marching ants around the shape. And now I can go to Select, and I can modify, and I can contract, and I'll contract by 30 pixels. And you can see my marching ants have moved in from the edges of that shape. What I will do is make a new layer. I've made a new layer here now above shape 1, and I will pick white as my foreground color and take the fill paint bucket and fill that in with white. So now and I can Command D to deselect my choice. And now I have a place for a photo and a frame. Any questions there? Let's do that one more time. I'll do it with the circle. I'm going to select the circle shape by going Command onto the icon, Command and clicking on the icon. Then I get marching ants around the circle. I can go to Select, Modify, and I can contract or expand, whichever way you want to go. And let's say I thought the frame before was a little too skinny. I'll go with 50 pixels. You should see the marching ants contract in. There you go. Now I'll pick on this circle shape to make that the active layer. I'll make a new layer, create a new layer. Now it is above my circle, and I will fill that with the foreground color with this paint bucket tool. And now you see there's a white circle here, and I have Command D to deselect, get rid of the marching ants, and now I have a place where I can clip a photo to, and the shape 2 here, this circle, brown circle, where I can clip a background paper to. And that's really the basics of making your own templates. Once you have these tools in your knowledge base, you can make all sorts of things. Make your pre-designed pages that you miss and love from creative memories over again into this program, or scrap lift something else that you've seen. It'd be inspiration. If any of you have questions, I'd be happy to field them now. If you don't, then I'm nearly done with this basic tutorial. I wanted to show you how to turn on the grids, which is Command and the apostrophe, how to make guides, which is Command and the semicolon, that you can snap, and that you can make frames, and I wanted to show you how to do that. Can you overlap the photos? You sure can. I'm not sure, Anne, what exactly you're referring to, but I can certainly move these shapes around. Let me do that now. And I'll select the background as well. Go to my Move tool, which is the shortcut V, and I can move things around. I can rotate them if I want to by any corner. I can rotate things. And when I clip a photo, when I want a photograph, let me just go into my iPhoto for a moment. And I'll just pick this because that's what I have open. I just drag it to my Photoshop icon. It'll show up in my project bin. Go back to my project. I've selected my layer 1. I'm going to clip this index card to my layer 1. I'll drag the index card onto my project. Because I had selected my layer 1, the new thing that I dragged is the layer above layer 1, which is great because I want to clip to it. So I'll move this kind of in place. And then I can go Command G, and it'll clip that shape to the photo spot. And if you highlight both things, I can resize or I can move things together. So let's go to the circles. I just select both shapes, and I can scale them together. So it's sort of like grouping, except that you don't have, grouping from SBC Studio, but you don't have to actually group. Just by selecting things together, they move and scale like a unit, and as soon as I deselect one of them, they're their own thing again. It's asking me to commit the shape to its new size. I can hit enter to do that, and then I can, so they've moved as a group since I had them both selected. And if I want to just select one thing, Command T to transform it, and now I can move it by itself because it's by itself. One thing that I have recently figured out, learned, and if I don't want to commit that, I don't have to. And I Command Z to undo. One thing that I've recently learned is if I wanted to move the brown circle, it can be kind of tricky to just select right out here at the edge of the circle to get that to move. What I do is I make it I select the brown circle from my layers palette and then Command T. And when I hit Command T, now that's the active layer to transform, and I can select anywhere inside that shape to move it or move it around. That has saved me a lot of time. And when I'm done with the template, good question, viewer 7, I'm so sorry I didn't cover that, but yes, I would just save it as a PSD file or as a TIFF file. If you save it as a PSD file, that's pretty self-evident. I would save as Photoshop and name it PSD wherever it is that I keep my templates. If I decide to save it as a TIFF file, which in general is a little bit smaller than a PSD file, I'd pick TIFF, and I'm going to put it in my desktop. And I'll put tutorial. Now give me some choices here. I'm going to show you the choices that I pick. LZW, interleaved, I don't know that this matters, and zip. It makes it a smaller file, and it's a smaller file than the PSD file. It doesn't make it a zip file per se, it's just that the the it doesn't have a zip extension. It just means that the file has become much smaller. It does take a little bit longer to open up a TIFF file, but since I'm always struggling with hard drive space, I save them as TIFF files to save hard drive space. Any other questions? I'll cancel. And it'll give me this warning, including layers will increase file size. That's fine. I want my layers to stay where they are. Hit OK. And now I'll have this as a TIFF file. Any other burning questions? If not, I'll sign off for today. So, thank you for tuning in and having patience with audio issues. As those of you who stayed till the end, thank you. This is my very basic beginning templates, and there's so much more you can do, but this is about the right level for beginners, I think, and I can show you some other things later. Alright? Thank you so much, and if you have questions, go ahead and ask them on how to scrap on Mac. Bye!